I would have been around Brandy, you would have been fit to push him about. And then since Jim McGuinness came in, that whole thing changed in Donegal. You know, remember the following year we played Donegal and we tried to rough Murphy up again. And I remember me and Brandy speaking on the way home in the bus going, he's a different animal, like, you know, and he's continued that since McGuinness's era. And a lot of the Donegal players have, you know, you used to be able to push them about.
I'm not finished yet, it took me a long time to get here.
Both players have spoken with each other.
So Ronan Steed was interviewed after the game on TG Catter after Galway blew Tyrone away, it has to be said, with an outstanding display of attacking football, especially in the first half when it was a proper contest. They scored 12 points. He said he's talking about Pádraig Joyce. He's all about attacking. We've got great forwards, Shane, Damo. Getting the ball quick into them stops defences setting up. If we give the ball in, we know they'll do damage. So it's easy enough when you think about it. It seems so basic, lads. You've got great forwards. Don't slow the ball down. Let the other team set up defensively. Get it down into them as fast as possible. Let them do the damage. Ciaran McKeever, welcome to the show. I want to hear your thoughts on this groundbreaking analysis from Ronan Steed.
Yeah, look, you know, I suppose you can't argue with the scoreline and the performances to date, but you know, they still play, I think, the way the modern game has gone. You know, they will go man on man, and you know, whatever side the ball's on, they'll press that side hard, and then the players on the other side that know they're not within that game will drop off and provide cover at the back. You know, and they'll get +1 back at sometimes. They'll get 13, 14 men behind the ball at different times of the game to slow the game down, something what Dublin's very good at. You know, so I wouldn't just be bell-hent that they're this attacking brand and go man on man for 70 minutes, because I think it's impossible. I think they've got the balance right, where if you could look back to this past couple of years, they were constantly filtering 13, 14 men behind the ball.
Ahead of the ball, yeah. Yeah,
behind the ball, and now they've got the Pádraig Joyce and John Devlin and the boys have seemed to got the balance right, where they will press high up the pitch and provide cover at the back from the boys that aren't anticipating that press from the opposite side of the pitch, and it seems to be working well for them. They're able to close off space, and you know, on their attacking front, you know, looking at them yesterday, they execute the basic skills well, you know, which is some inter-county players struggle with at the present minute, I feel. You know, it's their slick hand passing's always to point to the chest. It's not down around their ankles, it's not hanging up around the air, and you know, in that quality of ball, the 30-40 metre we pop in front to the advantage of the forwards, and then their ability to win that ball first time, first touch. You know, if you are a forward with the qualities that Galway have, the likes of Shane Walsh and that, and you're wrapping that ball up first time and having runners off your shoulder, it makes the game look so much easier. But on the flip side of that, something that you probably would come down to Rome with that are have a good skill level as well, that just didn't happen for them yesterday. You know, it's taking them 2-3 chances to wrap that ball up, which allowed them cover players for Galway to get back and put pressure and make it a 3v1 situation and overturn the ball.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. Like, I mean, the thing about it is their skills are great, but they're very skillful players, and that was a bit of the criticism for so long under Kevin Walsh. Just let these bloody forwards, you know, get out there and play. Like, Pádraig Joyce was interviewed after the game and he says, I always tell the lads they have to give a reason for the supporters to start following them. Our goal is to bring back the supporters, and there's more coming out to support each day. And I suppose they moved the game to Tuam, which is the home of football in Galway, which was a good move as well. I don't know, I just think to put up 12 points like that against Tyrone, like, this isn't, you know, a Division 3 team. This is Tyrone. This doesn't happen to Tyrone. I want to discount the second half a little bit because of the 2 sendings off, but we'll get to them in a minute. But this is the options the forwards have on the ball, Conan. Like, I mean, when Shane Walsh runs out from full forward line and he gets the ball, he's an option of runners off him. He also has an option of turning around and Finnerty is still inside. So there's 2 options, and he's an option to take on his man. Like, you know, they always seem to have options, and that is a huge departure and a huge change in Galway football.
It looks easy to play in the team because there are so many options. Like, everybody is genuinely available. They're looking to become available. And I think you said last week about somebody who was in front of Pádraig Joyce and turned around and kicked it back, and you were saying that Joyce wouldn't be happy about that. There was something similar against Tyrone where somebody had the ball and they were about to come inside and just play a handy pass, which would have slowed everything down. And you could see he was just something like triggered in his mind, like, I can't do that. And he turned and went back forward again, and suddenly a hand pass forward, and he was going for the return. But it's a victory for conditioning as well, because they're super fit and the runs are hard and aggressive. And what that does, if you're running straight at a team, you're either going to get free because nobody's following you, or you're just going to take somebody with you, and it's going to cause some sort of panic in Tyrone. And when everybody's doing that, it's making it very easy for the Galway boys to keep going forward.
Yeah, no, it is. And the whole thing about kicking it in, we'll talk about this game a little bit more in part 2. And you've played a little bit towards the end of your career in at full forward. You're impressive enough at full forward too, I have to say. But when you know that the tactics are get the ball in early, number one, the movement is much better because you know it's coming in. And number two, half forward lines make lovely angles off the ball winner because they know it's coming in. When you're not sure if it's coming in, you're not sure about making runs, you get disheartened, do you know? And it looks like they're this brilliant, slick forward line when they just know the ball's coming in and they're able to react to that.
I think it's the balance. They know the ball's coming in, but I still think it's discipline from the likes of Shane Walsh and these boys in that full forward line that are disciplined to hold depth in the pitch. Probably from going back to my last couple of years at Armagh from playing full forward, there was better forwards than the Armagh squad than me at that time, but they probably weren't as disciplined enough in holding deep, where if they made that first run and the ball didn't come in, they kept going on out the pitch. And it probably boils back down to my experience as a defender. Where does a defender not want to be? He doesn't want to be 1v1 in the 6-yard box. So if you can hold that depth and be disciplined and make multiple runs from left to right rather than going straight, wee areas will pop up, and then it's the execution of the skill pass and the boys out the pitch that if they can find them pops, you're winning that ball in around the D area. And if you have runners coming off, you're in a shooting zone, where if you make that first run and keep going out towards the 45, that's where defenders want you to be. And
you're losing the shape then.
You're losing shape.
Completely. What do we make of the McGeary sending off? My thoughts on this are that, look, if you're going to... We've all been in a situation where we get the ball and we're turning and you kind of know, right, I'm open here to be burst. And you kind of want your player to open a lad when they get an opportunity like that. But my thoughts on it, when you go to get a lad like that, there's nothing wrong with it, but it has to be right. You have to catch him right. And he just timed it. I think it wasn't so much he timed it wrong, McGeary. I think that Brannigan saw it out of the corner of his eye and pulled his head back and got it in the jaw. It was probably a sending off, but completely accidental. Would that be fair?
Yeah, I don't think McGeary meant to catch him, but at some point there is a responsibility on him to make sure he doesn't catch him in the face if he is going to.
You have to hit the shoulder
exactly.
there, or else you're in trouble.
Yeah, so I think it was innocent enough. He was trying to hit him hard on the shoulder, but caught him on the face, and that's unfortunately for him. That's a red card.
Ciaran, enforcer centre back, might have a different.
There was no malice in it from Ciaran McGeary. I think we can all agree on that there. Do I think it warrants a red card? I don't. He committed fully to a fair shoulder. The Galway player turned in towards him and he accidentally caught him on the side of the jaw, and that's something that I believe that we have to look at in the GAA. You talk about VAR in the Premiership, and I think we need, in the GAA terms, referees to get a second opinion if stuff like that there, because...
But do you think a second opinion would have changed that mind? Because he could have knocked him out. Now, I'm not saying it was intentional, but if, say in soccer, you go in with a sliding tackle and you're trying to get the ball and you're late and you take a lad out,
I think if you watch that clip a few times and common sense is prevail, I think he gets a yellow card. There's no malice in it. He didn't go with intent. He went for a first shoulder, which he's entitled to do in the game, and it was more or less the way the Galway player turned in that made him hit his jaw. And just don't think that it warranted a red card.
In his defence, it wasn't him. Maybe I said he timed it wrong. He probably timed it right. It was that Brannigan saw it and as he pulled away, that's how the timing went wrong. Do you know what I mean? If he got a yellow, probably you wouldn't have too many people at the game complaining. If he got the red, there wasn't too many complaints about it either. I think maybe I'll sit on the fence after him.
Yeah, no, sorry Ciaran, I know you're a much tougher player than I am, obviously, but I just think we could be sitting here, and obviously it's an extreme example, but we could have had concussion, or you don't want to start letting that creep into the game. So I think
it wasn't an elbow, no. It was his shoulder was perfectly down by his side.
Yeah, but he just needs to make sure that he's not connecting with the head. I get it that he wants to go in and hit him hard, but you have to do it fairly. You can't be catching him in the head.
Yeah. Okay, right.
It's the same as you're competing for a ball in midfield and you go to break it and you accidentally punch someone in the back of the head. You can knock them out at that stage as well. But does that warrant a red card?
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
so-
Okay, I'll take that one. Colin McShane, it looks like he's going to be out for 5 months. He dislocated his ankle. That's the news this morning. That's desperate. Am I right or wrong? Like, ankle injuries are much more dangerous during the summer when the ground is hard, right? When there's a bit of give in the ground, usually that helps your ankle injuries. You have that same opinion that it's unusual to get a bad ankle injury like that in really soggy ground like it is in Tuam. Do I have that right, or do I have it the wrong way around?
Yeah, but it's desiccated it, so I assume it was something.
Oh, he did go over it badly, and I had to rewind it. It looked nothing at the start. You're wondering what was going on here.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like just a little sort of twist when it's a harder ground. It's easier to.
It's easier to roll it on harder
Yeah.
ground. On softer ground, usually the ground might move a little bit. You know, when you do it, that's what I always found.
just, probably from playing in Tuam before, like, it's a heavy pitch and there's a lot of hollow bumps in it, maybe.
Is there? Yeah.
Yeah, he could have hit a divot, like, so just unfortunate for him.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. Because, like, I mean, to get hammered like that and for him to be out for 5 months, that's a huge... Any word on Conor McKenna? Have you heard any news up there, Ciaran, of him coming back, or is this only just people putting his home 1 and 1 together and getting 25?
I wouldn't have too many friends in Tyrone now, but no word. Haven't heard anything on the ground, but see Mickey Hart come out yesterday and said that he's going back to Australian rules, and that's his flowers and Ola.
All right, okay. So Dublin beat Donegal on Saturday night, and again, timekeeping. We've been talking about this a lot the last few weeks, and it came up again because when there was 7 minutes extra time, and when the extra time is up, nobody knows where they're coming or going. They don't know, is there going to be 3 added on? Is there going to be 1? No, it's not transparent. At least when the extra time you get the 7 minutes, and the whole stadium and the supporters and the team management and the players on the field, most importantly, know it's 7 minutes. Then you get into this twilight zone where nobody knows. So anyways, the talking point in that 7 minutes was the John Small, Michael Murphy thing, which we'll get to in a second. There was 2 minutes 20 seconds. That's what I counted. Oisin McConville said 2 minutes 23 seconds, and he only added 1 minute, and Oisin said 4. I had 12. Anyways, neither here nor there. They lost. It paid Paddy Small and Dublin to do that because they gained a minute of that 7 minutes. They were able to waste a minute. Now that's not good enough, because David Goff told us only last week that, okay, if there's 2 yellows, because Pat McEnany and David Goff interestingly differed on this, and it just goes to show Maurice Deegan obviously differs on it as well. And then what was the referee in the Meath Mayo game? He played exactly the extra time when he differed on it. So referees are not even consistent on this. How are players supposed to know? How is management team supposed to know? So it's not good enough. So you have a situation where referees seem to be making it up as they go along. There was David Goff said that if it's a double yellow card and they're right beside you and you flash the 2, take the name, you wouldn't add on time for that. But this was a situation where the game was literally stopped for 2 minutes 20 seconds. David Goff says that's something you do add time on for. Like, it's a very frustrating situation.
Yeah, look, when you say, I think they make it up from day one, referees anyway. The simple thing is taking in a timer, taking the complete time off the referees, the way they have the buzzer in the ladies' football. And I think that's the only way we're going to solve that problem. Like, there's too much of a grey area as we see at the present minute.
Why is it only coming up now? Why is it because so much added time is being added on for all the different things? It's very rare that there will be a match now that there isn't 7 minutes added time on it. Because this hasn't been a talking point until this year's league, has it?
Yeah, suddenly it's just like they've got all the proper time now. They used to just say 3 minutes, and they added that on.
3, and there'll be never any issues.
Yeah.
Now that it's got long, it's nearly always 6, 7, isn't it? Always now, whatever.
Yeah, and it's under more scrutiny now because the games are closer, and like all those added time minutes are worth something. Like they really matter, and
then all the substitutions tally up. What is it? Next to 20, 30 seconds, is it?
Yeah, but David, we were under the impression of that. But David Goff told us last week that a substitution can take 7 seconds. Or a team management can take the piss, take 47 seconds. He just adds on whatever the substitution takes. Rather than saying, or like if it's a double substitution, he said it's not 2 20s. The double substitution, you don't add on an extra 20 for it. It's just whatever extra it takes, for the player leaving the field to come off and the player coming onto the field to take his position. That's what he adds on. So, obviously it's up around that area because we had 6 subs on each team, which were 12 subs often poured in the second half, where now they're down to 5. So it might be a little bit less, but it's definitely incidents within the extra time and the cynical nature of how teams are trying to maybe game managed that or whatever, it's shone a light on it.
But that's it. Like, and like, what, 2 weeks on, the only thing we're sure of is that game management still pays off. Like, it's worth doing. It's worth getting into a fight in injury time. It's worth bringing on subs. It's worth lying down injured. Like,
Yeah.
it still pays off. The refs aren't adding it on.
And it seems to me that the ref is inclined to allow a Dublin that extra attack or a Kerry. Kerry got it against Dublin, which was an interesting dynamic, whereas a Monaghan might not get it. Donegal did not get it. They got less than a minute. Kerry got over the time that they should have got for Clifford to get that free. Do you know? So you have a situation where a ref is in control of a time that nobody knows how much he's adding. And he's in control of drawing this up if he wants. Like, it's a farcical situation. You're right. Like, the obvious thing here is the clock, and they won't do it. You know, it's crazy stuff. But I want to get onto this. I want to get onto this small Murphy sending off because, like, I mean, we have at Owen Mulligan tweeting, right? So we had a big Ulster kind of poor me situation, which I'm going to get into with the 2V last night on League Sunday. It was like, you know, this is always highlighted when it's Tyrone and it's not highlighted when it's Dublin. Owen Mulligan tweeted the same thing. He says, Dublin's cynical as usual. Murphy took out from behind by two men. No different from the Clifford incident, but it's okay, we'll brush it under the carpet. Now, I think it was different in the Clifford incident because Small got sent off as well as Murphy. So he sacrificed himself and Murphy, whereas the Clifford one, a sub came on, got a yellow, and Clifford got a double yellow, and it looked, that's unfair that he's gone and the other lad's on. You know, so it didn't have that same kind of visceral, that's an outrage, it's unfair. It's very obvious Small went out to get to stop Murphy. I think there's no doubt about that. You have to look at motive here. He had a huge motive to stop Murphy. Murphy had no motive. Why would Murphy want to get involved in that mess? And when he's trying to equalise the point, that's obvious. Howard then came across and got involved. It was absolutely cynical. The question I have is, who doesn't say Dublin are cynical? Dublin are one of the most cynical teams out there. We know that from the All-Ireland final against Mayo when all of their forwards systematically jumped on Mayo defenders to stop them coming back up the field. Where's this coming from, Ciaran? Like, I mean, is this an Ulster kind of paranoia that the knives are out for them more than, you know, a Kerry or a Dublin?
I don't think so. Like, it's probably interpreted in different ways. You know, when you get onto the Sunday game, you know, where if that happens with the likes of, you know, Armagh or Tyrone or Donegal or Monaghan do something similar to what Dublin did at the weekend, you know, there'd be certain personnel on the Sunday game that would call that nastiness, not manly enough and stuff like that there, where, you know, and on the flip side of that, if where Dublin and Kerry do that, you know, it's known as good game smarts, trying to close out the game and getting their team across the line, you know. And
do you think that is that a thing? You see, I haven't really noticed that, but you notice it more than me. I just
you don't want to notice it.
Brawley would never criticise Dublin if it's Brawley we're talking about. He cheerleads them, you know.
Ciaran Whelan's the same. Colin O'Rourke's, like, they're all the same. Like, that, their interpretation is different when it's from an Ulster team compared to the likes of Dublin and Kerry. You know, and it's every team has them. Every team has, if you like to call it, enforcers. You know, you go back to probably the Kerry game when Clifford kicked that point to equalise the game. The likes of Dean Rock went over and shook his hands. There's different personnels in each team where, every team has them that will have players that will bend the rules and play on the edge. And that's why Dublin are champions. They're 5-time All-Ireland winners because they have that ruthless streak in them and they're willing to do whatever it takes to get across the line. And John Small typified that on Saturday night. He played within the rules. He knew what he was going to do, and he knew the consequences, that he was going to get a second yellow card and he's going to take Murphy with him. And and we can talk about X, Y and Z all we want. He did what he had to do to get
do you think he's thinking I'll get Murphy sent off here, or do you think he's just trying to make sure Murphy can't get up to get a score? Do you know what I mean? And is that, at the start maybe he didn't think it would develop into what it was. He was just pulling, because he was pulling him all night. He had him by the jersey all night.
I'd say he was, his first thought was, I can't allow Murphy to get on the ball here. Because Murphy was having an excellent match on Saturday evening, and his first protocol at that point was that, if he gets his hands on the ball, it's a high possibility that he'll either get a free kick or generate a score to draw this game. And then obviously it developed into a tangle between the two, and once you get into a tangle between the two, the rule states that you're going to get 2 yellow cards.
It seems to be 2 yellow cards regardless of who the aggressor is. And can you believe, after us, everybody complaining the week before about Clifford, both of them getting a yellow, even though Clifford didn't look like he did anything. Maurice Deegan goes up, and an umpire can't tell, or a linesman can't tell him who, started that, or what. Murphy was just minding his own business. He gives the two of them yellow cards. What is he thinking?
Yeah, but this is it. Like, I think this is probably where the paranoia comes from an Ulster point of view, is that I don't see what the difference was in either week, whereas you think there was a difference because
really? You wouldn't have got it as annoyed because both players didn't get sent off, and plus Murphy's no angel either. Like, Murphy could have gone early in the game as well. I think that's why. Like, I wasn't as enraged watching that as I was with the Clifford thing.
David Clifford's not an angel. He was, like, he didn't do anything wrong in the Tyrone thing. But I've seen him against Dublin. Like, he loves a bit of back and forward as well. Him and Sean O'Shea, it's one of the things that impressed me about them. They're both tough characters, but like the like of this, I know Small got sent off, but Jesus Christ, every single day I would sacrifice John Small to get Michael Murphy off the pitch. Do you know what I mean? So, and like, I don't think Ben McDonald was sent off from Tyrone as a dog to get Clifford sent off. I think, like John Small, McDonald thought, I'm just grabbing this boy now because, like, start a bit of badness, or I don't want them to get on the ball. Small's done the same, and like, they both got a yellow card for it. Like, if I was a Dublin management team, I'd be happy. I'm not saying that was a tactic from Dublin, but that's probably where the paranoia comes from them, from Ulster, that it's seen as a little bit different, because the whole perception last week was Tyrone know what they're doing. They've done that. They per David Clifford.
I do think with pundits, and maybe you have a point on this, is that if a team plays football the way you kind of enjoy watching them, you might analyse situations like that differently. You know what I mean? Like, Kerry and Dublin might play a brand of football that Colin O'Rourke might enjoy a little bit more, so he would maybe forgive them of that a little bit. It's not fair analysis, either. But if you've got a team like Tyrone, who for the last maybe 7 or 8 years wouldn't have been great to watch, unless their counter-attack game is working, that you'd be a little bit more kind of, what are they?
And the key thing is, like, this hasn't just come in over this last decade because you had Tyrone, competing, Armagh competing, your Ulster teams competing over this last. I remember going to Croke Park in 2000 when Armagh played Kerry in the All-Ireland semi-final. First day was a draw. Cathal O'Rourke give Kerry a hard time that time, and in the replay within inside 15 minutes Cathal O'Rourke was carried off, so Kerry had identified in that week off that he was a key target for them. He was controlling the game, and within 15 minutes Tomas O'Shea and the boys had him sorted, so
it's always been going on. But like, I mean, Tyrone and Armagh back then were playing great football. Would you have found the analysis biased back then as well, or is it just in the last maybe 8-9 years? Of incidents? Because I think just that Ulster counties have got bad PR from the defensive style of football that they played, and people didn't like it. And that style of football, there's a lot of gamesmanship going on because it suits you, to slow the game down. And we've seen elements of diving. We've seen maybe that goes on with other counties as well. Do you think that has fed into the maybe, I don't know, unfair analysis of incidents like that?
Yeah, it probably has, and you go back to this whole defensive side of things. Yes, there's no question about it that probably also were the first teams to maybe go that proactive defensive 10-12 men behind the ball, other teams are doing it, but you look at the likes of Jim McGuinness, he probably had it more structured than what previous teams have been doing, where they were filtering back, tracking men and getting behind the ball, where Jim McGuinness's time at Donegal, I believe he done an excellent job with Donegal, because you go back to 2010, we played them in Crossmaglen and beat them by 17-18 points in a qualifier match, and then in 2011 he got them to an All-Ireland semi-final, and then they ultimately won it in 2012, and he had more structure. Each player and were identified and where they had to be and what roles they had to carry out within
he brought the zonal kind of defence back, where you head back in front of the ball and wait.
Yeah, and
that started that.
And Dublin, have implemented that in their game as well from the 2014 semi-final that Donegal beat them, and the scene, that they had to get a structure, a defensive structure in place as well, and you can see them implementing that at different periods in the match to kill the game, slow the game down, they get a foothold in the game again, and they done it against Donegal on Saturday night again. Yeah,
no, they definitely did. No, but it's definitely interesting. Poor Sean Patton, he had a great game and then made a balls of that. Like, at inter-county level, it's unusual because Neil McGee was wrestling with Mannion. and he stopped wrestling with him. So he clearly got the shout from Patton to stand down and stood down to the side. So Patton's shout, he was wrestling Mannion, who wouldn't have scored if Patton probably hadn't have called it, and then just dropped it down to Mannion, who was completely free because Neil McGee had let him go.
Yeah, I think it was actually a free catch as well. Like, he wasn't under pressure. McGee had Mannion out to the side, and did it end up, was it McGee had batted it in the end? It sort of deflected off Mannion, and I think McGee was trying to reach for it, or anyway, one of them put it in.
Yeah, it went in anyways.
But yeah, as you said, we were like, Patton was unbelievable. I was starting to think, Jesus, this boy, is he the best? Like, you start trying to get definitive answers, but yeah, that was just a big cock up, really, like, and such a good game for him.
Yeah, it was definitely unusual. 2 more talking points before we get into the matches, lads. What are Mayo doing with Lee Keegan? Why is Lee Keegan playing cornerback? Why is a player of the year, the best wing back in the country, now stuck in the corner? Like, you can trust me, I've played wing back, I've played cornerback. I know the game is changing now and cornerbacks go, but he's not the same threat. Like, he's going, but he's not damaging. He's going, and by the time he goes, a lot of players are kind of back. He's not able to break lines. For me, Lee Keegan, unfortunately, just looks like another player now. Instead of a player of the year, what do we do about Lee Keegan? Isn't it unusual?
Yeah, you've nailed it on the head there. Like, from making runs from cornerbacks completely different from wing halfback, because there's more times, opportunities for players to get hands on you and stop that run, where if he's penetrating from a wing halfback position or a centre halfback position or even a midfield position, where he'd probably get more freedom in that area, he's fit to break lines, he's fit to punch holes and get in the gaps to create that overlap for a score or get someone else in behind. And and he's always been a go-to man for Mayo, and and probably the present minute he's not that no more, because he's been stuck in cornerback, and the game's developing right around that middle of the pitch. And without him, and he's probably thrown and thrown. Do I join that attack or do I stay cornerback? And he's probably caught in a wee bit of limbo where he can't.
He is, and he looks a bit lost on the field, I think. Like, I mean, he starts off marking Ciaran Hughes. That's grand. Ciaran Hughes goes out to midfield. Then he's kind of floating around. He's on Jack McCarron. He's on Shane Carey. And, like, we're talking, okay, having an attacking cornerback is a good move now, because most teams play a 2-man full forward line and you follow out the other man and you have a kind of free role. That doesn't seem to be the role for Lee Keegan. Lee Keegan's in there playing as an orthodox cornerback.
Yeah, and like, it's a good point that Kieran's making. Like, there's more opportunity for boys to push him as he's going up the pitch. It's a longer way to go, and he's fast, he's explosive. Like, we know he's a good player, but what he did well from halfback was he timed his runs perfectly. He came onto the play when you weren't expecting him. Like, that goal against Dublin's a perfect example. He wasn't even a shot, and then suddenly the net's rippling. Like, he just knew when to go because he could see the pitch. It is a completely different position, and that is his position, halfback. Yeah,
he's a wing back. He's a wing back. Maybe he'll go back out there, but it's completely why you would take one of your main weapons and make it into almost a weakness, because he's not a cornerback for me. He's not. The way Conor Callaghan turned him that day, and I don't think he's a proper instinctive cornerback. The second yellow for young Flynn again. The poor fella, after being sent off against Dublin, and that was a harsh enough yellow too. It was just a bit kind of reckless. There was nothing in this, lads. But Ciaran, it's interesting, this one. Ryan Wiley dived now and that. Like, okay, he got tackled around the waist. He felt a little bit of contact and he threw himself in the direction he kind of slightly was pushed. And this is a huge feature of the game now, unfortunately. You almost can't tackle fellas now in certain times in the game.
Yeah, it was a not like you'd like to call it, a 75% foul that we'd call it up north. Is the maybe stop that game at that present minute, and you could actually see that I don't think the referee was going to book him until Ryan Wiley complained to the ref, and then you can see him checking his step and going back and dishing out the second yellow.
Yeah, but Ryan Wiley didn't need to fall there. Like, that wasn't a tackle that knocks you. That was just a tackle that you wouldn't, like 5 years ago, you just ride that and keep running. He just threw it. You know how to do. Everybody knows how to do what Ryan Wiley did.
A free kick.
Yeah, he bought a free kick. I wouldn't say Ryan Wiley was buying a free kick hoping he got him sent off, because there's no one in the right minds would have thought that he was going to get a second yellow for that.
I think he was just under pressure with the ball.
Get himself a break,
Getting the free was the handiest thing for him to do, but such a nothing free. Like, it was a free, but that's it. Like, they were just, as you say, 75%. Like, it wasn't. You wouldn't have batted an eyelid if it wasn't a free either. Like, just weird.
So weird. And the poor chap. Like, I mean, you're trying to break onto a team that's 2 sendings off, like, already in 4 games. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's just desperate for him, and he was distraught. But how do you? Is there no going back on this accentuating contact? You know, we've criticised Ryan McHugh, he's an expert at it. John Small is an expert at it. Any contact at all, and if a player's running past you, if you tackle him anywhere towards the chest, suddenly they're getting whiplash and they're going off their feet and flying back. There's no way of going back on this now. It's just getting towards a game that's less physical. Is it that, you know, players are accentuating contact?
I think, you know, it goes back to the referees and their officials. You know, you're a manager, you're a player on an opponent team. You're always looking and analysing other teams prior to that match, okay, and trying to get matchups right. You wonder, do referees do the same? You know, because it's the same players buying these free kicks week in, week out. You know, where, you know, I think if referee's doing his homework, if Armagh's playing Laois next week, you know, and he's doing his homework and he sees boys buying free kicks like that in previous matches, that he has that in his head. He knows that, but, you know, I just don't feel maybe they're doing enough homework prior matches to try and identify that. And if they can identify that early in the first 5 minutes, then that cuts it out of the game.
Do you think analysts have a responsibility here to highlight these kind of, like, that was just brushed the other night? So, like, Ryan Wiley wasn't exactly, you know, criticised for that, and he deserved to be. And not singling him out, he's just one of, I would say, 30 different ones you would see. I think it was Niall Scully, Hugh McFadden was another similar one. Should we see John Small doing, like, you know, different lads. If that's not highlighted, it just becomes, what does my head in soccer analysis is, oh, but there was contact. But sure, was contact enough to knock someone down? Like, it's a contact sport. Like, it scares me that we'll get to a point where this is brushed for so long that suddenly it's just in the game, and then we'll be sitting here in 3 years' time saying, but Jesus, there was contact.
There's a fear seems to be amongst analysts to sort of call that out. Like, I was watching, was it Air Sport that showed the Dublin game, and Ryan McKeever got body checked by John Small, and Small probably thought he was in trouble, so threw himself down holding his head, and they showed a replay of it in slow motion, and you could tell that all the people in the studio now know what's happened, but none of them mentioned it, and it was like,
but see, the Brawley won't,
just coming together there, and,
yeah,
you know, and that's it. Like, and none of them call it out.
Yeah, it goes back, boys, to the you know, the video. I think that it's something we need to take in the Gaelic, and, you know, we're stopping the game for 30-40 seconds to a minute anyway to get these bookings and stuff done, you know, where if we can go upstairs and have someone on the radio saying, I don't think that warrants a yellow card, or I don't think that warrants a free kick, you know, and I think it's time that we move in that direction. Yeah.
How many of them could you do a half? Like, I mean, is this a case where you might be allowed one each in a half, and a manager has to decide? That would be a way of doing it, but you couldn't, you couldn't go up 4, 5, 6 times, especially in a second half where usually these things happen a little bit more. It would be just non-stop, right?
I just think it's, if a referee and his officials are unsure, they have to make the call to go upstairs. Like, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, quickly, Laois had an 8-point lead, and they won by 1. Armagh had an 8-point lead, went 3 points down, and then they drew. I don't know what, like, I don't know, have you heard too much about the Armagh game? It's an absolute thriller. We know Armagh have moved away, and they're playing a very direct, similar enough to Galway, and in turn there's a risk and reward. You get the ball fast up the field and your forwards try and hold their positions, you'll get scores. You're going to be vulnerable at the back. We'll talk a bit in a minute. Tyrone had 4 goal scoring opportunities in the first half, but Armagh are just involved in. Do you think maybe that feeds into their inconsistency a little bit? It's hard to know what you're going to get from them on a given day.
Yeah, I wasn't in Cusack Park yesterday with the under-17s all day Saturday, so I had to stay at home yesterday. So yeah, look, you know, I'm sure Geezer wouldn't be happy this morning. You know, they left themselves in a great position to go and win the game, and then, you know, at second half, Westmeath scored 3-5. You know, and it's something that, you know, it probably boils down to a wee bit of inconsistency and closing out the game, and no man to, you know, maybe do what a Dublin does. You know, if you're under pressure in that period after the first goal Westmeath got yesterday, you know, get 12, 13, 14, 15 men behind the ball and kill that game for 5-10 minutes, you know, and let you get a foothold in the game again and maybe hit them on the counter once or twice, which Armagh have serious pace in their team at the present minute, and I think they'll be capable of doing that and maybe tag on a point or two. But, you know, there's this perception in Armagh too where, you know, where we feel that, you know, we're too good to do that, you know, from supporters' views, you know, that we're too good to play 13 men behind the ball at different stages in the matches, where, you know, it's getting the balance right, you know, throughout the game, where we talked about Dublin does it. Galway are starting to do it now. Yes, we'll go man on man and we'll press high up the pitch and we kick the ball. But there's certain times in the game where game management has to be key, and if that means putting 15 men inside your 45, you got to do it.
Rory Grugan alluded to that with me before in an interview, because remember Armagh were throwing away leads towards the end, and he was like, maybe towards the end of games we need to calm down on the more aggressive kick passing, which are more higher risk of losing possession, and maybe play a different style of football to close out a game that are winning by 4 points. Do you know what I mean? That feeds into that same thing.
And they've got better at that. They've got more better at their game management side of things. But they'll be disappointed with Yes. There's no question about it. Knowing the group and knowing Geezer and his management team personally, like they'll be hurting. And they'll want to rectify that this Sunday, going to Brewster Park, and there'll be work for them on the training pitch this week to try and rectify that. Yeah,
no, it definitely will. And I think Laois should stay up. Now. They're 3 points off the relegation and there's 3 games left. So Kildare or Fermanagh would have to win 2 of the last 3 games. 3 of the 3 to go past them. I can't see 3 of those 3 winning 2 out of 3 in the form that they're in. It's great news for Laois fans. I'm calling Laois safe already, lads. Maybe we should be looking at trying to get promoted.
You're just assuming they're not going to get any more points either.
No, I'm a pessimist by nature, so I'm thinking the worst case scenario, if we don't win any more games, are we safe? So anyways, we'll leave it there. We'll come back and we'll talk about the games that were on telly. So Dublin 115, Donegal 114, and Desi Farrell was interviewed after the game. He said, we had a poor start again tonight, and that's something we'll definitely be looking at. We'll look at it during the week and have a discussion about it. Over the longer term, it needs to be addressed. It looks to me, Ciaran, that Dublin are there for the taking and nobody's able to take them. The slow starts are a constant theme, and he said it's something that needs to be addressed. I've been on loads of teams that have had 1 or 2 bad starts, and it's not an easy thing to address. You have team meetings about it. You discuss your bus route. You discuss your warm up. You blame everything And in my experience, there's nothing really that fixes it. It's just one game you have a good start, and then it's gone. Yeah. It's a really weird one. It becomes a thing. You say you need to address it, but it's just what do you do to address it?
Yeah, there's no question they're there for the taking. It's still early days.
Yeah. I'm only saying in the league. Yeah, I'm not saying in.
I'm sure knowing Desi, he's finding his feet. So I'm sure the boys are just getting used to him as well. And he'll want to try and put his own style and implement stuff within the team. Outside of Jim Galvin's era. So it's probably just going to take a wee bit of teething time from him. But you go back to that game and. There was probably 2 key moments or 3 key moments in that game. You go back to Sean Patton's kick-outs. Were excellent in the first half. And they probably replicated the kick-out that they done in 2014. Yeah. When Ryan McHugh got in behind from one of Murphy's flick, and they ran that ball hard and coughed up a goal opportunity. And at that stage of the game, it was 1-3 to 0-3. And that puts a different perspective on the thing. And then you go back into the second half, same again, replicated the same kick out, which is worrying from a Dublin point of view, that they got caught twice in the same match from that. And, at that stage it was 1-11 to 13 points and 4v2. You've got to make that count.
And they got it to the right man as well. But wasn't it so interesting with that? So the first one was Michael Murphy flick and it was Ryan McHugh. We've all seen that before. Mm-hmm. The second one was a similar flick. It was Owen Ban Gallagher and Niall O'Donnell, who were the 2 making those extra 2, getting in behind. And Dublin are vulnerable to that. We know that. But if the 4-on-2, you work on them. But they did get it to the right man. It was just
too late. Patrick McBurdy was on first and he didn't play it. But then, at that stage then, Owen Ban Gallagher never looked like he was not going to play it to the right. Do you know what I mean? He didn't draw Davy Byrne. He just sort of looked out to the right to Brennan, and it was too slow.
And that's the difference. If Donegal put that in the net, it's a 4-point game, and we would have seen a different side of the game. We would have seen Donegal closing the game out. Rather than John Small and Dublin closing the game out. So it's every team has it. Yeah. And I've no doubt if Donegal had went 4 up at that stage, we would have seen them being able to close that game out as well, because they've good game management, they've good players on the pitch, and they have them enforcers on the pitch as well that would would be fit to do that job.
Yeah, you'd have to say there were 2 good saves from Comerford, like good saves, but like I think he had got the McBurty one right in the face. He stayed down. Like sometimes that happens, goalkeepers where they just put their hands up and they get it in the face. Maybe a bit more composure from McBurty, knowing it was 4-on-2 to dummy it, like, you know,
Just think
maybe not drive it exactly where Comerford thought he was going to drive it. Maybe
the hand pass wasn't slick
Yeah,
enough.
yeah.
It was that yard behind, just broke us straight, I think.
and the pass from Jamie Brennan back to McHugh probably was a little bit out to the right, sent him too far.
Yeah,
to
because
get.
I actually was looking at that over and I thought McHugh probably could have taken it around him, but in fairness to Comerford, he was on his feet and he was agile and he actually just stayed with him the whole way and there was no sight of goal for McHugh.
Yeah,
So
the McFadden goal on air, they didn't really analyse that at all. Poor Craig Diaz was following McFadden, and as Murphy slid out to get that, and it was great hands, he took Diaz out completely. You know, it wasn't on purpose. He didn't do it on purpose. It was just the way he slid out, and then McFadden's completely free, and he didn't want to shoot at all. It was just like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And he just kept going forward, and then he cut inside, and it was a great finish because he hit it into the ground for a midfielder off his left.
Yeah, you know, it's, you know, and that's, you know, Murphy's cute at that as well. You know, he's fit the shield. Once he pops that ball and someone coming in the loop, he's fit the big frame that he has. He can shield that player, that defending player coming round, chasing that man off, and it just gives that player that free couple of yards to drive into space or else get that shot away, you know, and that's... And that's just game smarts, I think, from Michael Murphy.
No, he definitely... There was some great matchups, wasn't there? Small and Murphy was a great matchup. Kilkenny and McHugh was an unusual matchup. I wouldn't have saw that matchup coming before the game. I wouldn't have thought McHugh would have been the right man to put on Kilkenny. He did all right on him. I was surprised Kilkenny tuned out for that. Kilkenny's such an analyst on the field. You would be surprised he would have let McHugh go, you know, for something that we know is a set move from Donegal. Ban Gallagher versus Mannion, Darragh Boyle versus Howard. There was some great matchups. Donegal have some good matchups for the likes of Dublin.
They do, and they've got set plays as well that keep teams...
The set plays is when they were most dangerous. Kickouts is when Donegal are the most dangerous. From the throw-in of the second half, knock down, into Murphy, lay off, Ciaran Thompson, point. Off a throw-in, because all their forwards are up. Sometimes they frustrate me that from kickouts when they're set with their forwards up, they're dangerous. From a throw-in, they're dangerous. But then from general play, they filter too many forwards back and play a long possession game, and that allows Dublin filter back. You know, it's almost like defeating themselves by giving Dublin that opportunity.
Yeah, even then I think they're trying to set up some sort of set play. It takes them a minute or something to get to it, but I'm even thinking back to Comerford, in fairness, was another save. Pater Mogan, I don't think it was on by the time Mogan had a shot, but that sort of, they had the ball for a long period of time, they created that space, and then suddenly they have that hard run inside because they see an opening. So they're always trying to sort of create, sort of control what they're trying to do. And like the McFadden goal came from a sideline as well. How often do you get a goal from a sideline? Like, they just worked it and got a bit of luck with Diaz getting to
there was another ball. It was from I think it was Thompson picked out Murphy and he just got it on the turn and scored a point. I don't know. I think Donegal are more dangerous doing that than their 2 minutes possession if you slow the game. I think this is why Pádraig Joyce won't allow Galway pass it sideways or back. It's not that he won't allow it; he doesn't encourage it, because as that happens, now you see Dean Rock. He's coming. You see the camera shot, and you see Donegal with a ball, say, in midfield, and then they go, right, we're going to hold possession now. Could go back to the half back line. Now into camera comes Mannion, comes Rock. And they're facing their men, and they're facing back out to goals. Now they're facing 13 Dublin men in there, and when you've 13 Dublin men in there, they're such a big, strong team. Was it worth Donegal going back that time, or should have kept going forward? Do you get my point?
You know, I wouldn't say that they don't want to move the ball quick and don't want to move it fast. You know, maybe that at the period of the game where the game's thrown back and forward for maybe 5-6 minutes. You know, you see teams there, you know, where they get their hands on the ball, and they nearly take that as an opportunity to fill the lungs again.
Settle down to get that pace and intent back within the squad. And I think that's, you know, where a lot of teams control that ball, because they have identified, you'll see them, Dublin do it, they make calls, they raise their hand, say this is a set play, we're taking a breather here, we're killing the game, and then we'll inject pace off a wee 1-2 and hopefully get them behind and get the score. And I think that's part and parcel of, you know, it's not that they don't want to play fast. I think maybe at times the match are out on their feet and they want to control that game and reserve energy and then go at the right moment again. Right, so it's just a matter of gasping for breath and saying here, you know, because Donegal, I'm sure, pride themselves on saying, because they're so slick through the hands, they're probably saying, right, let's take a breather and Dublin are back, but that doesn't mean we can't score here. You know, we will work something. Like, I think it's a much easier score if you can keep going forward and get that one-on-one situation. But obviously these teams think, look, all right, we'll get the breather. Worst case scenario is we get turned over or something like, you know, further up the field.
And I don't want to be conservative, but when you're playing Dublin, like, do you just play percentages? So you don't want to kick it away or like, have a pass that's going to give them a chance. The more that they don't have the ball, the better for you, obviously. Because like, if you're chasing Dublin, you're on hiding to nothing. Yeah,
well, that's it. If you have the ball, but I don't know. I still think that over the course of a game, and I think nobody's really beaten Dublin with that running game, and the teams that cause the most problems have a good kicking game, because Dublin will allow, if you move it fast before Dublin have drop players back, you'll get your one-on-ones.
Yeah, and I don't think they're good at one-on-ones.
No, and it could get goals against them, and you'll never beat Dublin without goals. I just saw Monaghan and Donegal thinking, okay, I see you kicking it in sometimes, but I would like to see maybe a 70-30 split of the 30 being work it through the hands and get your breath back.
Yeah, it's just getting the balance right against them, you know, and I do believe the team that can probably hold 3 or 4 forwards up front all the time and get that kicking game against them will cause them big troubles if you have runners coming off it, because pound for pound I just don't think they have good man markers, and that's short. Yeah,
I think Fitzsimons is a good man marker.
He's the best. He's the best to have, and you know, you look at the legs. Johnny Cooper has been great, but he's been struggling this past couple of years. Philly McMahon's starting to struggle, you know, and I just think that they're vulnerable in that area. You know, and they seem to rotate Fitzmaurice around to maybe 2 or 3 different forwards and on any one game, you know, so that's a sign that they don't have reserve.
Owen Merchant as a cornerback is there for the taking with a certain, you know, size of player.
He looks like a different player. We've talked about this before, but like, he looks like a different player when he's playing in the fullback.
He's not an orthodox cornerback. He's not. He's absolutely not. No. It's not right on him. So that was it. So Donegal had some good play. You would maybe like, I don't know, would we like to see them play a little bit more of the kicking game than the possession-based game? Would that be fair enough? Like, to cause Dublin a little bit. The most problems they caused Dublin was when they got it in a bit earlier.
Yeah, you know, I think they have changed since Declan Bonner has come involved. You know, and you know, said, would we be talking about this if Ryan McHugh had scored that goal and Paddy McBurry had scored a goal and Patton hadn't dropped the ball? You know, we'd be talking probably about how good they were kicking the ball. You know, so it's getting the balance right, and you know, I think Donegal's in a really good place. And
they're missing a lot of players, right?
You know, so you know, I think they'll be a force to reckon with come later in the year.
I think Donegal have the personnel to beat Dublin on their day, along with maybe Kerry, Galway. Who else have them on their day? You'll say Armagh. I don't think you're there yet. But as in,
we're closing the gap.
You're closing the gap. But if you look at players, like I always say, to beat Dublin, you might need 3 goals. How will you get 3 goals? By getting it in, like Galway, Donegal, even like Armagh could easily get 3 goals, even if they don't beat Dublin. You have to do that, or you won't do it. And if you don't see evidence of that, you're like, this running game's been tried against them and it doesn't really work.
We need defenders as well. And like what Donegal did really well was that they stuck with their men. So normally, because Dublin throw the ball around so much and they come out in loops, you can be guilty of following the ball. And then that's when men get free. But Donegal just religiously stuck to their men, no matter who was coming on the loop or who popped it off. They just stayed with them. They had a responsibility, and they had the free men as well that were able to back it up. I don't know, like, I just, again, as Ciaran says, if they had got those goal chances, if Patton doesn't drop it, Donegal probably deserved to win that match.
Yeah, no, I think they did. And I think Dublin are kind of sleepwalking, and maybe it is like they're taking shots from places. Brian Fenton took a shot in the first half from way out in the right into the goalie's hands. That would never happen. Mannion, Mannion's a bit of a free spirit. He's always tried the odd one. Kilkenny in the second half took one from out on the right hand side. This is not usual percentage shots that they usually take. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that, are they not as in fear of Desi as they might have been of Jim?
You know, and it's the same, like, you know, from 2014, they never got caught with a kick out like that again until Saturday night. You know, and you know, you just wonder, is there lapse of concentration there by players and maybe a wee bit of arrogance, you know, but you know, that could come to tell the tale, but I don't think we'll find out till semi-final stages, because Nottingham and Leinster's going to hurt them.
But even on that though, even a small thing on the start's a problem. We're not starting well. Jim Gavin would never say we're not doing something and it not get fixed the next day, would you? This is 4 games now that we're not starting well, and Desi's kind of, well, that's something that we need to work on. That's very unusual from what we're used to from the 5 in a row team.
Now, this is just a theory, but is it something to do with the fact that they have won 5 in a row?
Well, I said that to Johnny Cooper. There has to be a natural relaxation in that. Jesus, we've just done something that no one's ever done. And you'll say all you want, block that out, the neck, we want 6. 6 ain't the same as the 5 in a row.
And for 5 years, every team in Ireland have been looking up to Dublin, and that's the standard, and we have to beat them. All we talk about here is how to beat Dublin. And they can't, no matter what they do, they can't go out in a game against Donegal in the league and be at the same pitch as them to start off. They might get there eventually, which they usually do, in fairness to them, but they can't start the game at that level because how could they?
Yeah, no, exactly. So we've kind of talked a little bit about Galway lads and their brilliant play up front. Like, I mean, there was a couple of we'll get on to some top performers from them in the next part. But there was I think it was Ronan Steed's first point where the ball was into Shane Walsh and he just let it go past him. That beautiful. No, but but he couldn't do that without knowing there's someone running off him. And like, I remember the first ball McShane got, and because Tyrone only play McCurry and McShane inside, and then it's a good kick pass into McShane. His first ball he got, he was surrounded by 3 lads and it was turned over. His second one, he got in the corner and he had nothing around him, only Kelly standing in front of him. He tried to take him on and Kelly blocked him and turned him back. You just don't see that from the Galway forwards, because you don't have to take on your man all the time, because there's options all the way around you. And that's the great thing. It's actually Gaelic football the way I played it, wing forward. Jeez, let it into the full forward. I'm going to time my run now. I'm gone off him at an angle. Or you're playing in the corner forward, right? It's coming in. I'm going to cut across him. You see Varley, Shane Walsh gets the ball. He just pops it off. Or Shane Walsh comes out, wins the ball, gives into Finnerty. Varley's running off him at an angle over the bar. Shane Walsh gets another ball, holds it up for a minute or two, waits. Comer's watching it. Makes an angled run, gives it to Comer over the bar. Michael Daly the same. When you have options, lads, you know from playing full forward, when you get the ball full forward, you've no options, you're gone. Like, you're actually gone. You don't look like you know what you're doing, because your only option is to take him on. Whereas if you've got a hand pass, now you've got a hand pass option, you have a take him on option, you have a dummy solo option, the back doesn't really know what to do. Do you know? I don't know. I think that so many teams haven't been leaving enough forwards up there, and the good thing about Galway is that Finnerty never comes out too far. Walsh will swap with Comer, but there's number one, when you come out and win the ball, there's always an option, turn around, give it inside. Finnerty will be that lad. You've always an option of someone running off you. You've always an option to shoot yourself, or you've always an option to take on your man. When in the last 8 or 9 years have we been saying forwards have had, those 4 options up front?
Yeah, but having them options, it makes the defenders think differently. If McNamee, brilliant fullback for Tyrone, but when Shane Walsh was winning them balls out in front and he had runners coming, McNamee was probably caught in 2 minds. Do I go to press Shane Walsh hard here, or do I step in case he feeds it to the runner? And it just puts that defender in doubt for that slight moment. And that slight moment, if you flick that ball off to a runner, or you get that half yard to turn and shoot yourself, it's a different game.
And they are very lucky in that they have Shane Walsh, right? Because he was looking for the ball even with Kavanagh covering him. And I remember it was for Comer's point, he sucked 3 Tyrone lads onto him. It was including Kavanagh, and gave it to Comer. And Tyrone have some extra defenders, but they don't have that many, on that side of the field. So I don't know, I think that Galway are in a very good place. I think obviously, look, it's still the league and it's boggy ground and we don't know, but I do think that it is very refreshing to watch a team that is just going forward all the time. It's you're relentlessly trying to attack at pace.
And it's keeping defenders honest. I think you put out a tweet yesterday saying they have 6 scoring forwards, and if you add in Steed to that, that's 7. So defenders have to... They have to be aware of every single player. Like Michael Daly dropping that shoulder on Ronan McNamee, and McNamee feels like he has to go with the dummy because he could turn and put it over, and then he just puts him on his heels and goes past him and puts it over. That's a wing forward. It's only Stephen O'Brien really we've seen in the last few years doing that from wing forward. So the fact that Galway have that from all over the forward line is scaring the backs. And how often do you see Colin Kavanagh leaving that area? Because Shane Walsh has gone out there and he's looking for space no matter where it is. Yeah, it's incredible.
No, I think it's the options that they have. And when you look at Tyrone, Tyrone are playing Conor Myler, Frank Burns kind of as forwards, and they're dropping back. Frank Burns and Conor Myler can never play like Brannigan or Daly because they're just not, natural forwards. You'll never be slick unless you pick, like Armagh slick because they play forwards. Like backs can't be slick forwards, and that's the reality of it.
It's true. Yeah, you have Shane Walsh up there as an exceptional player. Probably hasn't got the credit that he deserves over his past number of years. But he's one of them players that you'd pay money to go to watch. Remember at the tail end of our international rules stuff, picking him up in an in-house match one Saturday morning, and you're trying to cut off angles and trying to block his runs, and the next thing, Jesus, pace he has is frightening.
Oh, it's frightening.
It's frightening, and remember, I didn't have much pace to start off with, but I could always cut off angles. And I remember going to myself, something has to change here, so he's an exceptional player, and it's great to see him playing inside. I think that's where he's most dangerous. I think he's a better option in there than Comer to have that balance right, where Comer,
he's more variety to his play.
There, and and if he holds that depth and his discipline, that's the last place as a fullback you want to be, is 1v1 with him in there. Yeah,
and the great thing about the two of them is that Shane Walsh breaks out to win a ball and he gives it in. He might stay centre forward and Comer's in. There's him and Comer especially are swapping. And if Comer lands in there, like, you'll make a plan for him if he's always in there. But if he just lands in there and someone follows him in that's not, really suited for him, that he got the goal with it was a mismatch against Tyrone cornerback. Who was it? I can't think. Or the penalty rather, not the goal, where he took him on and just completely went past him.
Pace, yeah.
But if that's just because Comer's not always meant to be in there. There's just someone marking him that might not be suited to him.
Peter Hart standing in there with him going, lads, somebody give me a hand here.
But what's happened, Peter Hart? He's a shadow of a player. Like, he's actually he's gone back so far that I don't know. Like, last year he wasn't great. Jeez, I'm watching him there. He doesn't know whether he's coming or going. Am I being too harsh on him, or is he completely lost as a player?
You've always been out for Peter Hart, though.
Oh, well, I think he's in big games. I don't think he's been as good as other players that have his reputation, but he just doesn't look like he's. I don't know. I don't think Tyrone's style of play is suiting him at all, because he doesn't know whether he's meant to be dropping back into his own or getting back up, or is he holding, or it doesn't seem to be in the game.
I know it's early, but their style of play does look a little outdated, and they just look sluggish in general. And McShane obviously was his first start the other day, and he's gone off injured after 40 minutes. So, and no Matty Donnelly, so it's probably hard to look good there for Peter Hart when he doesn't have these sort of focal points to play off, which is what he feeds on.
I think are they stuck between trying to get out of the defensive game, playing a kicking game, having Donnelly and McShane in there as their preferred kicking game, not knowing whether to have a presence on the half forward line, having too much of a gap. Now McShane and Donnelly not there. What does Hart do in this situation? I was saying last Thursday, Tyrone are a little bit confused. Is it they don't have an identity as a team anymore?
Yeah, look, they probably, you go back to last year, they tweaked it and used Matty and Donnelly and McShane in there as a focal point to kick the ball down, and they got great success off it with the runners coming off it, Sludden, P.D. Hart and Spies that they're coming off it, where them two players aren't there now. Nobody knows when Matty's going to be back with that bad hamstring injury, and now Ciaran McKeever picking up a bad injury yesterday, and I think they'll have to revert back to type again, get numbers behind the ball and run, and they're all too similar. Sludden, McCurry and these boys that, they have great pace, they have great ball skills, but they struggle to break tackles when they don't have a vocal point there to work off. I think that, without them two boys, Ciaran McKeever and Matty Donnelly inside, that, they don't have other players in the panel that's fit to do that. They might fire Richie Donnelly in there when he comes back as well, but he's not the same presence as the other two boys.
No, he's definitely not. That's the thing. Without the two lads, you're right. The only thing they have left is to stick to the run. To go back to that running game. That running game will get them to an All-Ireland semi-final, but it won't probably get them. Well, it got them to a final, I suppose, but I can't see them beating Kerry or Dublin with that running game. It's too obvious. Yeah. They know what's coming. There's not enough variety to it. Okay, lads, we'll leave it there. We'll come back with performance of the weekend next. Alright, performance of the weekend, lads, and Shane Walsh has to be mentioned. 1-8. There's not much left we can say about him. What he's doing is just phenomenal. I think what sums him up is in the second half he scored a free from the left hand side with his right foot off the ground, and he scored a free from the right hand side with his left foot. Now these are like wide on both sides, off both feet. Outside of Colin Corkery, I can't remember any player hitting frees off the ground, and Corkery wasn't as good as Shane Walsh. There's no doubt about it. He's just a phenomenally gifted player. And it was funny, I remember we talked about him before, and Ray Silk was telling me about him, that he managed him in school and he coached it. It was in Jarlath's, and he sent the lads, go over and practice on your bad feet now. And Shane Walsh came up to him and like just kind of innocently, sorry sir, but I don't know what side to go to. Both of my feet are the same. Like this is a phenomenal just a phenomenal ability this lad has, and he is up towards the Clifford stand. I do think Kevin Walsh didn't help him the last 5 years, because again, you don't have options. Shane Walsh inside, stranded, has to take his man on. Good defenders, right, I'll shadow him. He's going to take me on. There's no other option for him here. And now that he has the options, defenders are bamboozled. They don't know how to deal with him.
Yeah, he's an exceptional player. He's great balance. You'll seen him yesterday. He's going down the sideline, soloing off right foot, off left foot, and people hanging off.
That's
him.
Showing off, isn't it? That's Mugsy. But it's unusual for him to just switch left and right, just solo, and maybe he soloed on his left when no one was on him, and then when McNamee was on his left, he went over to his right. Yeah, and then
if you're a defender there, you're deceptive to engage with him, because the balance he has. If he steps 1 yard, he's getting a shot away, and you're trying to shadow there and trying to get help in around you, someone else to come in and double up, and as you said earlier on, if he has options, he wins that ball, and he has options, it's much more easier for him, and then he can either feed the player coming off his shoulder, or else get that half a yard to shoot himself, and he's dangerous, and he's probably more suited to that full forward line than what he had been playing in previous back in half back line, picking up ball and running from deep.
Yeah, and I suppose he was effective doing that because he's so fast, and he knitted one to the other. But it's just such a waste. It's just such a waste of his qualities. Sean Bugler continues to impress. One off the right, one off the left in the first half. The left was a really tight angle, so we know he can score off both feet. We know he can score from angles. What impressed me most in the second half, I think it was in the lead up to a Kilkenny pointer, a wide from Kilkenny, Murphy hit him with all he had, and he shook him, but he didn't knock him, which I thought was probably his most impressive thing of the whole night, because I'm sure when Murphy hits you feel it. Yeah. Does Murphy know how to tackle with an open hand, or is it always just are you always getting a fist?
Yeah, look, it's funny. I remember, before McGuinness came in, you used to bully Murphy.
Really?
Yeah, remember Miss Brandy Donaghy used to always pick them up, bullied him. I would have been around Brandy, you would have been fit to push him about. And then since Jim McGuinness came in, that whole thing changed in Donegal. Remember the following year we played Donegal and we tried to rough Murphy up again. And I remember me and Brandy speaking on the way home in the bus going, he's a different animal, and he's continued that since McGuinness's era. And a lot of the Donegal players have, you used to be able to push them about, but when Jim McGuinness came in, he changed that psyche. They got more ruthless, and had that wee bit of bite between their teeth. And and Murphy's an exceptional player, and he's at his best when he's aggressive.
When he's nasty, yeah. There is na. So when you'd push him about, what would he do? Just ref or whatever. Whereas the change came then, where you were getting it back.
Yeah, you needed your gum shielding, that's for sure. Where previous years, you would have been complaining to umpires and referees, but when Jim McGuinness came in, that changed, and you just had to make sure you had a gum shield in your mouth.
Classic. Jesus, yeah, that's interesting, because we know him nearly most of his career since McGuinness had him. That he's just
like Charlie Lacey that time as well. He took an extra edge to his game when Jim McGuinness came in. The McGee's always had it. Lacey stepped up to the mark. Them boys got extra bite, got more aggressive, and became more ruthless from that Jim McGuinness era. And and they're carrying that through. And Murphy's at his best when he's in that form.
Yeah, no, he definitely is. There's no doubt about that. Conor McCarthy, Conan, he seems to have taken his game to another level again. Maybe benefiting from not having to drop back into zones, and maybe getting a bit more freedom to play up front, or to get the ball in more dangerous areas.
And that goal he scored, I've never seen Aidan O'Shea pulling him, but he goes with the pull rather than trying to get away from it.
Aidan O'Shea sent him in the direction he didn't want to send him.
He went with it, like, rather than trying to scramble off him, and it was class the way he sort of pirouetted around him, and I think there were 3 men he beat, and brilliant finish. He looks like the player that we've always expected him to be, and it really does show, like, different systems suit different players.
That's
and
it.
Different coaches.
Because he was in danger of going, geez, he's good with UCD. Is he lacking a bit of bottle for? I don't know if his bottle is fair, but I'm looking at him going, when's this lad going to show what he's made of? And it's true. System depends on the system. That might not have suited him.
Yeah, you always would have used his qualities from Monaghan minors, Monaghan under 21s, and you would have seen glimpses of that through Malachy O'Rourke's terms as well. Glimpses, where now he's probably that wee bit older, he's more mature now, and he probably is more, I wouldn't like to say focused on the game now, where he knows himself now where he has to make a stamp on the game and be a starter and be a consistent player for Monaghan, and and to the start of the league, he's really stepped up to the mark.
He has. I didn't realise he was as fast. At that point, he scored the hand pass point. He took on. I'm not sure who he took on from a standing position, Plunkett, centre. He was following him, took him on from a standing position, and just went past him and looked like he had a real bit of pace as well, which you never would have seen. Really. Yeah. Jeez, you see, you just don't see this. Like he's on the outside of a screen and he's just keeping it moving, and he's not playing to his strengths. And then he might play inside, but McManus is the main man in there, and he's and then maybe his confidence suffers because of that, and he's like, someone starts warming up and he's worried that it's him, and he's just he's not. Centre forward seems to, when he was with the Monaghan Miners, was he centre half forward? Is that his best position? Can you remember? Or
he would have varied probably between centre forward and corner forward, but as you said, when you're standing in there beside Manzi, and you're looking out the pitch with the ball in your hand,
you ain't getting it.
Your go-to man's Manzi, if he makes that first run, and probably out round that half forward line gives him that wee much more freedom, because boys are going to double up on Manzi. With his pace, he's fit to throw a jink and generate pace and get them scores for you. Yeah, no, definitely. Ronan Steed got 3 from play, lads. He was taken off in his first 2 games at half time. We don't know if they were tactical or was he playing. It never stood out to me that he was doing anything awful to be taken off at half time, but to come back with 3 from play in the first half, long range scores are definitely his forte from watching Corofin. We know that, and like you said, Conan, like you talk about 6 scoring forwards, you can add him in there as a scoring midfielder, long range. So if your support runners have all gone past you and you still have the ball, stick one out to the 45 to Steed, and he might curl one over. And it never seems to be much effort for him. He's like sort of tapping it over what we would do from 20 yards out, and he's doing it from 45, 50 metres. It looks so effortless. He's a boom of a ball, he definitely does. And then I suppose you have McDade in the half back line who can score. We know Silk can score. And Gary O'Donnell can score as well. And then he has Johnny Heaney, who likes a goal in cornerback. Lads, I'm all about Galway. I'm sorry, I'm unapologetic for it. I'm all about Galway. I just really enjoyed that first half of football. Shane McGuigan on fire again, Conan. 1-3 from play, 1-7. He's averaging 1-7 a game here at this stage. Now I know he's not a Division 4 player, but look, he's still or Division 3 player. Sorry, my fault. Division 4 last year. Right, Division 3, he's more credit. So in Division 2 that might go down to maybe 1-4. But 1-7, he's going well. Division 3 is really interesting. There's 4 teams and 5 points after Cork. We predicted that was going to happen. Yeah, Derry are third, just behind Longford on goal difference, but they still have to play Cork, which is the problem. Cork could be qualified though. You could get. When do they play Cork? I'm not sure actually. But Cork are through. Cork will be through after their next game. Yeah, so after they play Derry. After they hammer Derry. Cahill Craig got 1-3 in Newbridge. This was a great win for Roscommon to beat Kildare in Newbridge, because this is one of those traditionally difficult places to go, and Kildare's away form is dreadful, and in general their home form carries them through because they're very good in Newbridge. It's a tight, small pitch, and they were in control in the second half, and Roscommon came back. This will give Roscommon a massive boost, and in turn Kildare, imagine Kildare too good to go down. You're chatting to anybody from down around home, Fermanagh, they reckon Fermanagh should have beat them in the first game of the season up in Newbridge. They had them on the rack, alright. And Armagh put them to bed easy in the athletic grounds a few weeks ago, and just haven't been impressed with Kildare at all. Probably haven't been impressed in this past number of years. for some of the personnel on the squad. They just seem to, in my eyes, they seem to run down a lot of blind alleys at times with the ball, and and they're big and they're strong and they're physical, but they struggle when teams come at them with the ball.
Yeah.
Struggle.
Yeah, I thought Jack O'Connor would have got a bigger kick out of them. I'm not going to lie. Definitely. I had them as one of the favourites. I tipped them and Armagh to come out of Division 2, and now, I don't know. Is it
Armagh
possible
should have
for
scored 5 goals against them that night in the athletic grounds.
that night? Yeah, that night, bizarre.
And that was alarming, against Roscommon. Roscommon just kept cutting right through them, and they were chipping them over from 20 yards out, 13 yards out, and it seemed like once they realised that Kildare were going to let them through, that Roscommon got their tails up, and everybody just started going at them straight through the centre. It was scary.
It was too easy to win. And in fairness, though, in Kildare's defence, the penalty was well outside the penalty area. That was harsh. And
there was point or 2 points in it at that time.
Yeah, and credit to Roscommon though, because they did win, or they did beat Kildare in a game. If you're being honest, you wouldn't have thought they were going to beat them. I think they went 5 down, didn't they? At one stage, definitely 3 before the goal. Gerard McKiernan, this is one of the greatest comebacks of all times. Cavan, oh my God! If anyone told you that Cavan would be sitting pretty at the top of Division 2 after round 1, after Armagh destroying them, Gerard McKiernan got 5. One of them included a mark. He was playing at centre half forward. Mickey Graham said after the game, the obituaries were written already after the Armagh game, and the headstone was on our graves. Have to hold my hands up and say I was one of those. I was one of those people. I don't think that was fair. Sorry. It was a bad night at the office for us, but it opened our eyes, and we knew we had a good bit of work to do to get back on the horse. This has been some turnaround, considering they were dreadful that night against Armagh, and they're missing. So many of their leaders are gone.
Yeah, you go back to last year, they're missing their spine of their team basically. Killian Clark, McFitty, and these boys, and
Moynihan
as well. And I was at that game at Athletic Grounds, the first National League match, and it was a 13-point defeat for Cavan, which was good to them. Armagh had numerous opportunities to put the ball in the net and took fisted points instead. And Gerard, McKiernan and them boys look anomalous that night. They didn't look interested. They looked leggy. You're probably leaving that Athletic Grounds that night saying the writing's on the wall for these boys, but you have to give them huge credit the way they've turned it around, and they'll have their nab up now going down the home stretch of the National League and see themselves in a promotion hunt.
Yeah. They definitely are. They're absolutely in a promotion hunt, which is incredible. They have a good squad. They have a lot of those players from all those under-21 teams. They might not be they probably have a good, choice of players to pick from down the level. Do you get me? At a good level, that's one Ulster's maybe at a certain age group. I have Limerick down on their own, lads, as performance of the weekend. They scored 5-10, hammered Wicklow. All 5-10 came from play. 3 of defenders scoring goals. Now, not having seen the game, how would we analyse that? Is this just a defensive game that they're getting up, or are these attacking from everywhere? How do 3 defenders score a goal each in a game like that?
Well, remember we were talking about Ian Corbett at the start of the season?
Well, Corbett got one. That goes without saying. That goes without saying.
So I imagine that all the defenders are just playing like he is, just going straight for goals.
Yeah, so that was interesting. I was actually asking Cheddar on the hurling show, and I can't remember who else I was asking, but it was say a Division 4 team it was Billy Lee, the Limerick manager, last Thursday, how you motivate players that lose, nearly every week. And you see Waterford beating Sligo. It was their first win. And it's just keep the head up, lads. You're doing the right things. It'll come good. And they're hearing this and they're losing, and they're hearing this and they're losing. And then bang, they win. Imagine the confidence they get. It's kind of like reinforcing, we are doing the right things. Now we've won. Because Limerick came out of nowhere last year and beat Tipperary in the championship. Now they went down badly to Cork the next game, but then had a very good performance against Westmeath and lost in Cusack Park. Now this year they've come back, won the McGrath Cup, won all 4 games. Do you know what I mean? And this is after losing some players. They've some players, including Billy Lee's son Jamie, left after the Carlow game. Losing players and still playing well. Maybe a spark has just lit, Ciaran, or something like that, with maybe some of the weaker teams.
Yeah, and they probably see an incentive there, after a good McGrath Cup campaign, that they could see an opportunity of kicking on in Division 4, and probably have watched what Carlow did there in the past number of years coming out of it, and probably unlucky to get relegated out of Division 3 last year. They've probably seen that as incentive and said, if we get our house in order here and everybody buys in and rows in behind each other, and we play it the way we're meant to play, that we have an opportunity here of getting out of this division. And
Yeah.
they're on the right course at the minute.
You see a lot of the teams in Division 4 playing defensive styles, and that's understandable, because what kind of I can't understand is see Galway against Tyrone. Galway will go for it. In the National League, I think every team should go for it a little bit more, because every team is playing. Okay, fair enough. If Leitrim are playing Cork, they're in the same division, but you get my point. In Division 4, they're all playing each other, but those Division 4 teams know in the Championship they have to practice a system that's going to compete with the bigger, you know what I mean, with the bigger teams. So it's understandable. But in the actual league, you should probably see more teams just go, right, well, you're not that much better than us. I don't really care about you. Like, I see we've 3 forwards that are better scorers than your lads. Let's just go out and try and beat each other. Do you know, that kind of way? Or are you always just thinking... I do think sometimes with GAA teams, you decide on how you're going to play and you work on that the whole year.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And you become easy to read then, whereas you go, like you say, Dublin, within a game, they can actually go defensively, get their breath back, and then get the forwards back up the field again. You don't see that enough in GAA, or maybe we don't have enough, it's not professional, so you don't have enough time to work on different game plans.
Yes, it's probably getting the balance right, right across the board. And Dublin seem to have got that right in the last 5 years. Where they can press high up the pitch, they can revert back to 13-14 men behind the ball, and kill the game, and they're the one team that stands out. And GAA was trying to get that in place at the minute, and I think every team is trying to play a similar mode. They will get men behind the ball, they will keep 3 or 4 forwards up front, but it's having that discipline in them 3 or 4 forwards up front, that they're disciplined to hold depth and width, and trying to give you that pivot to kick the ball too. Yeah,
and then of course we've attacking cornerbacks, which messed the whole thing up. So that's another dynamic. We'll get into that. Might get into that the next day. Right, that's it. Who we give performance of the weekend to, lads? It's hard to look past Shane Walsh, isn't it? A phenomenon. He could get it every week at the form he's in. I think he's got it already.
Yeah, well, even Owen Bradley was tweeting about him at the weekend. I can't think of a higher compliment. So it has to be Shane Walsh.
What did he say?
I could watch this fella all day. It's Owen Skinner Bradley, the second greatest forward of all time. So.
That's after Paddy Bradley.
Yeah, that's exactly.
What about Enda Muldoon?
Oh Jesus.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised that you're there now. Right, we'll leave.
I remember 4 of us rotating around Owen Bradley one day in Clonus.
He blew hot and cold, Owen Bradley, though, didn't he?
Not at all, no, not at all. It's always hot.
Okay, we'll be back on Thursday. We'll preview the weekend. We'll talk to you then. Good luck.